Hi there, this is Kate Hilliard, registered dietitian and certified diabetes educator with the Coastal Bend Food Bank. I'm here at the Antonio E. Garcia Center doing a class on our diabetes virtual series. And today's topic is going to be all about carbohydrates. That's why you see my sign up there, and we're just going to go through what foods are carbohydrates, what really are the myths behind carbs, because there's a ton out there, and to try to just clarify a few things and make you not fear carbohydrate, but put it into a healthy part of your diet. Now, one of the biggest myths that we always get is that fat makes you fat. And that's not always the case. Calories is what we consume that gives us energy. And when we don't burn it off, we end up storing it. And it starts kind of looking like this. So this is my fat model. This is about 1 pound of fat here. But it's not just fat, eating things like butter or lard that amounts to this. It's actually excess calories, which we can find plenty in our carbohydrates. And so we're going to go through the carbohydrates and go through what a serving size or portion size should really be so that we can prevent any type of fat storage. Now, from your carbohydrates, fats, and proteins, we call those your macronutrients. They're your large nutrients, large molecules that get broken down into smaller, simple molecules. Now, with carbohydrates, fats, proteins, the one that will raise your blood sugar the most is always going to be carbohydrates. And the reason is that God designed it to where it gives us the most energy right off the bat. And again, if we don't utilize that energy, then we end up storing it for later. So being smart about how much carbohydrate we consume at each meal or snack can really just put us in a much better blood sugar control. So some of the food models that I brought for us today to kind of look at what foods are carbohydrates and what their serving sizes are, I like to section them off into different groups. So here I have my grains group, so some whole grains and some just enriched bleached flour. Now, we do want to choose things that are more of our whole grains, so like our whole wheat bread, our oatmeals, even our beans. And of course, we're faced with a lot of things such as pastas and rices that aren't always whole grain. So the more that you can choose whole grains, you can guarantee that you're getting a lot more fiber in there, which won't cause huge blood sugar spikes when you're consuming it. So that's always the first thing with our grains, is choosing the whole grains. Now, serving sizes. For someone that has diabetes and maybe wants to lose a little bit of weight, I would say like a middle-aged woman trying to lose some weight there, I would recommend about 30 grams of carbohydrate per meal. So looking at maybe a 1,300 or 1,400 calorie meal diet plan, it would be about 30 grams. And so what I'm going to be showing you are what 15 gram servings look like. So that's one thing what we teach in diabetes, is that 15 grams equals 1 carbohydrate serving. So if you want to repeat that to make it go into memory, that'd be awesome. But 15 grams is 1 carbohydrate serving. And where that's going to really come in handy is when we start looking at our labels, which you'll have to wait till next session. But knowing that 15 grams is 1 serving of carbohydrate can help you plan out your meals a lot better and not go over how much carbohydrate that you have. So 1 slice of bread would be 15 grams. 1 pancake the size of a CD, okay? So not an IHOP or Denny's pancake, those are more about 3 servings. So this size. We also have our rice, which is 1/3 cup. Now, when it comes to portion sizes, you're going to want to get out those serving spoons, measuring cups, because it's really hard to visualize what 1/3 looks like unless you have those utensils. So feel free to get that out to start measuring. And this is cooked, not uncooked, but 1/3 cup of cooked rice. Our beans are going to be about 1/2 cup of our beans, so pinto, black beans, 1/2 cup is 15 grams. 1 tortilla, whether it's corn or flour, is 15 grams for 1. And when it comes to our crackers, 6 saltine crackers or 3 squares of our graham crackers. Now, all crackers are very different. There are lots of brands out there. And so with that, you'll want to always look at the label to see how many crackers fit into those 15-gram serving sizes. Now, on our oatmeal, something that's cooked will also be half a cup. Cereals are also around half a cup as well. And then our last thing to point out is some of our other specialty breads. So something like a cornbread is going to be about a 2-inch square, so 2-inch by 2-inch, 15 grams here. And something like a hamburger bun is half of a bun is 15 grams. So if we eat the whole bun, we have to know that that's going to be 30 grams of carbohydrate, which is still okay. It fits into a lot of meal plans. But to realize that we may get a little bit more carbohydrate than we anticipate. So there are some people that they don't want to do half of the bun if they order, a meal, or maybe they do it without the bun. And there's great variations and alterations that restaurants and establishments can do for you to reduce the carb. Same thing is, not eating the tortilla, but eating, the filling inside or some other ways. I'm perfectly fine as a dietitian that if you want to eat bread, you should feel free to do that. But of course, always watching your serving sizes is very important because too much can definitely lead us into a lot of trouble there. Now, when it comes to things like our fruit is a very healthy carbohydrate because not only does it give you that energy, but it has a ton of antioxidants. So to prevent many of our cancers, also has a lot of flavonoids, has a lot of polyphenols in there. So they're all awesome plant-based nutrients that are great for your body. It's what helps build healthy immune systems, healthy skin, healthy hair, healthy eyes. So you do want to get a variety of color. And that's what I recommend when it comes to fruit, is not just sticking with the same old, banana for the morning every day, but switching it up to where you're getting different colors. You're getting grapes, you're getting the beautiful green or red grapes, things like apricots or oranges, watermelon, strawberries. So any of those to get you a good variety of color. Now, serving sizes on fruit differs very greatly. And so this is really smart to be able to kind of look up some information online so you know exactly what 15 grams look like for fruit. But normally for a banana, they're about this size, but I'll tell you that's closer to about 2 carbohydrate servings or 30 grams. So we're looking at more, half of a banana to be closer to that 1 serving. So buying smaller bananas or sometimes just cutting it in half, sharing it with a spouse would be beneficial. But some other fruits here that we have are grapes. So about 12 large grapes or 17 medium size. When it comes to things like our whole fruit, you want to be around the size of a tennis ball. Okay, that's always a good rule of thumb. So that's going to be like our orange, maybe an apple, or even we have our little apricot here, which is probably even a little less than 15, probably more like 10 grams carbohydrate. Now when it comes to your dried fruit, because it is dried out, right, the water content isn't there, it doesn't go quite as far, but it can still be very filling. So with our raisins, we're looking at about a tablespoon of raisins, and with our dried plums or prunes, it's about 3 of them to make 15 grams of carbohydrate. So these are always amazing options to definitely use. Now, fruit juices, typically about half a cup is one carb serving. The thing though is that our juice doesn't have the fiber in it, right? It's really just, a lot of it is sugar, even if it's found naturally. So juices will shoot your sugar up very quickly. Now, if you have a history of having low blood sugars, hypoglycemia, you may want to have some juice on hand, but I don't always recommend drinking juice every morning for breakfast. Okay, we want to keep your blood sugar in check, especially in the morning when we tend to be more insulin resistant. So with our fruit, it's great to add it to your meals that you consume and know that it is a healthy carbohydrate. So it's definitely worth it. Now, some of our vegetables that are considered starchier that have a little bit more carbohydrates than maybe some other ones is peas, corn, and potatoes. So half a cup serving on peas, corn, and potatoes is 15 grams. And these are great options to have on your dinner plate, but just realize that you might get a little bit more carbohydrate versus something like tomatoes, cucumbers, salads. Now potatoes in, say, like a baked potato form, we say about the size of a computer mouse is one carbohydrate serving. And we do need to be careful, though, how our things like potatoes or starchier vegetables are prepared. So something like French fries is going to give us a lot more fat in there, typically made with a lot of sodium as well. And really, this is a medium fry that is way over 15 grams of carbs, so more like 30 to 45. So that's where, pairing some fries with our burger, already we may be way over our carbohydrate limit. So moving on from there, we have things like milk and yogurt. So 1 cup of cow's milk is 1 carbohydrate serving. So whether that's skim, whole fat, 2%, 1 glass, 1 cup is 1 carbohydrate serving. On your yogurts, typically it's about 6 ounces. But because there's so many varieties out there, so many flavors, it's always smart to look at the label to know exactly how much carb that you're getting in it. And there are also great dairy alternatives. So things like soy milk, almond milk, that necessarily may not have a lot of carb, especially when you get into your almond milks or cashew milks. But ones that are flavored like with vanilla or chocolate, of course, is going to add a little bit more sugar to it. So always going back to that label. And then our last grouping is going to be our desserts. So we talked about our breads, our grains, fruit, starchy vegetables, and dessert is really our last one to kind of hone in on. Now, with your dessert, it's really important that serving size plays a huge role in it, but to realize that you're also going to get quite a bit of fat from it. So something like a pie that has crust on both the top and the bottom. This is a 1/6 of an apple pie slice, and this is going to be 3 carbohydrates or 45 grams of carb in this slice, plus 2 fat servings. So even getting a sugar-free pie, which I've seen that out in the store, if you think about it, you're still getting the apples that are there. You're still, even if they didn't add sugar, there's still flour in the crust. So it's not just sugar that contributes to carbohydrate. It's also things like flour, like fruit, like other sweeteners. And so just a few more of that, something like a Danish or a sweetbread. This is, again, closer to about 3 carbohydrate servings of 45 grams. And we know carries also a lot of fat if it's made with butter or lard. So knowing that desserts are always going to be much of a specialty item, right? Not something every day. And it's something I always joke with my group, letting them know that dessert is not part of the food groups, okay? So you don't need to have it in every meal. So being smart about when and how. And then we have a cookie that's about a 4-inch diameter cookie. We're looking at about 2 carbohydrate servings here for a chocolate chip or a sugar cookie. And then with our cakes, something like our 2-inch by 2-inch cake with frosting is 2 carbohydrate servings at 30 grams. If we remove the frosting, we'll save some carbohydrate there. So keeping our portion in control, very important. And even for our angel food cake, that is promoted as a non-fat type of dessert, but also remember that it's not just fat that causes fat, right? So being careful with our serving size, even with things that are considered non-fat or fat-free. So really important to be able to just enjoy a little bit of dessert here and there, and realize that we really don't need much, right? The first 2 bites are always going to taste the best, be the sweetest, and then after that, sometimes it's just habit and consuming it. So I always recommend as a dietitian that you can always write down what you're eating throughout the day, and then going back the next day and seeing, did I really need to eat that? Was I really hungry for this food, or was it more so craving it? And then you can really start pinpointing and planning out what your meals look like for the rest of the day. So with that said, I just really wanted to give you a good overview on what foods are carbohydrates out there, and know that next session we'll be looking at our label reading. We'll also be getting into things like our fats, our proteins, and then also as well as how to build healthy meal plans. So thanks for joining.